Yes, hello everyone. Welcome back to another weekend review show here on Cluiche with me, Seamus Brady, your host, and I'm joined once again by Liam White from the Limerick Voice. Liam, what a weekend! The Allianz Leagues are finished for another year in terms of the normal running of games, the rounds. We only have the league finals left. Somehow we've ended up with a pairing of two teams that were in the relegation battle not so long ago. And then we also had action from the Hurling, from the Camogie, from the LGFA. All going to get through that in the episode. How have you been, man? Not a bad week for awfully confirmed promotion out of two divisions. I know that the results on the day didn't go well, but all in all, a sensational league campaign for yous.
Yeah, and thanks for having me on again, Seamus. Really appreciate it. A long day to say the least. Starting off the coverage from TG Cahir was absolutely exceptional today. You know, having every Division 1 and Division 2 league game streamed, as well as the Offaly Clare game as well, and giving in updates as well from all the other games in Division 3. You know, there was some serious work done by them today. It was a mental day. I mean, the fact that I remember saying at one stage, I remember turning to my family at one stage, telling them that Mayo were 7th in the table, and then 2 minutes later telling them that they were first, and they were kind of looking at me like had two heads. They didn't believe me. Like you said, a great day for Offaly in the football. Obviously, result didn't go our way, but I suppose, look, the objective was to go up. You know, I don't think the boys will be too disappointed about the result in the end. But delighted with it. Been a great league so far, season so far, and can't complain.
Yeah, well, let's dive right in with rounding up this weekend because it was a lot. There was a lot of games, as we know. And guys, if you're new here, the ticker down at the bottom will tell you how we do things here. Throw in your thoughts, get in the live chat, and let me know what was your personal highlight of the weekend, because I've no doubt that everybody will have different ones. And we're going to start off here with round 7 in Division 1, the final round of fixtures. And as we were saying there, I do genuinely just want to take a segment to give a massive shout out to Nematon and to Sports TG for all of the games from Division 1 and Division 2 being shown, including the Clare and Offaly game in Division 3. There were 9 games shown live today from Nematon and from TG Cahir. Just absolutely exceptional work from them. And really, Liam, when you think about it, the coverage that they do is just unbelievable. Pound for pound, it's the best around.
Oh, 100%. You know, like a lot of people in the country obviously have like lost their ability to speak Irish, and I think a lot of people now, we're going to see a lot more people speaking Irish over the next while because people are tuning in to TG Cahir every weekend, you know, and it's going to get better. But the service that they're providing, club, under 20 league campaigns in senior, the Camogie, the LGFA, it's fantastic. And I think like it felt like a Gillette Soccer Saturday sort of thing today, you know. It was mental, but no, it was. They did savage work today. They've done savage work over particularly the last number of months. We'd have been lost without them. You know, some of the games that they covered. Like, I mean, it only feels like yesterday that they won the rights to show Cork and Limerick when it wasn't being shown. You know, just stuff like that, little things like that, which people will really appreciate it. So, everyone got their chance to see games today. Can't say saw all of them at once. It was near impossible, but no, just for anyone who wanted to watch games, you know, I mean, you had no excuse not to watch a game today. You know, it was absolutely brilliant work from them, and hoping it continues on for the near future as well. And can't complain with the service at the moment. It's unbelievable.
Certainly, and then everybody that was involved, you know, the GAA themselves, kind of agreeing to help create this final day thing where TG Cahir can show it across their platform, and you can jump from ground to ground and make it, as you said, a really immersive fan experience that, like, it does final day in the Premier League type. I think the Wi-Fi just lagged there for a second.
No, you're okay.
But I think we're back. Okay. Yeah, Wi-Fi lagged, but we are back. Yeah, no, but I have to say, I absolutely loved the way that the service was done. You know, anybody involved in the GAA, as I said, that helped kind of get TG Cahir to make it possible for TG Cahir and Nematon to do that final day thing deserves massive credit. And then the way that Nematon and TG Cahir handled it from there was unbelievable. Like the final day dramatics, and you can jump from ground to ground, and yeah, it was just awesome. And let's dive right into reviewing it all. So, Division 1, round 7, we had Mayo beating Donegal by 118 to 116 in McHale Park. We had Kerry pulling out a superb victory over Galway by 323 to 219 in Pearse Stadium. Tyrone beat Dublin by 220 to 116 in Healy Park, but it wasn't enough. And Armagh beat Derry then by 424 to 118. A dejected Derry, to be honest, who clearly had nothing left to play for. So the results are that Mayo and Kerry will be in the league final, and Tyrone and Derry will get relegated. We'll start with the Mayo versus Donegal game. Mayo 118, Donegal 116 at McHale Park. This game was just absolutely crazy because throughout the game, as you said, there were stages when Mayo were getting relegated when they were losing this game, and then when they pull out the big win and results elsewhere go their way, all of a sudden they're into a league final. Like, it was literally the most topsy-turvy against Mayo. And somehow, considering where they started off the league campaign, they've ended up in the league final. It's unbelievable, but it also speaks to the level of competition that was in this league. How on earth Tyrone have got relegated with 7 points is just baffling. But Mayo are in the league final and Donegal aren't.
Yeah, and I mean, what's funny is, first of all, you're thinking Jim McGuinness probably did a lot of the reports obviously saying he didn't want to win this game and this, that, whatever. I really don't believe that for 1 second. I'd say when he got to McHale Park today, he said, we want to win this. And I mean, there were so many stages during the day when they had different opponents in the final, and it's crazy. That missed penalty, ironically, is now the reason why they're not there. When you kind of, now I'm not putting the blame solely on him, but just when you think of it that way. But yeah, no, for Mayo, like, considering even you go back to the first game of the season in Croke Park against Dublin, and you go from there, just the way that they've managed to crawl their way to the league final is nothing short of, in a way, small bit heroic, but great credit to them. The likes of Matty Ruane, Ryan O'Donoghue, Aidan O'Shea has been phenomenal as well in the league, I think, as well. He may be getting on in age, but he has that little bit of experience. He's still a big showing for Mayo as well. He's still got his heart firmly in the Mayo senior setup. And yeah, no, McStay, to his credit, he's got them there. They're there. Another meeting with Kerry. If they could repeat what happened in 2019, sure, they'll be absolutely over the moon. And it'll give them major confidence going into the season, because at the start of the season, not a lot of people expected much of Mayo. Like, I certainly would have had them down around between 5th and possibly even getting relegated, But, and I mean, they still could have ended up finishing 7th. They were 7th at one stage, like I said today, and then they ended up being 1st. The way they were just jumping up and down the table was moving today was sort of insane. But no, great credit to them. They're going to be playing Kerry next Sunday. Should be a cracking final. But yeah, no, they had some very, very good performers today as well. Colin Reap had a very, very good game today as well. And like I said, Ryan O'Donoghue, I mean, he's just one of the best footballers in the country. Matthew Ruane is playing out of his skin at the moment. Like the game against Derry, he was by far Mayo's best player. Again today, he was sensational. They were leading for good amounts of this game. I was kind of keeping up with it on Scorpio. I wasn't able to watch it, but no, they were firmly in the lead. And then Donegal, as you probably expect with the way the season's gone with the Alliance League, mounted a comeback, and then that 67th minute penalty from Darragh O'Boyle, I could hear it on TG Carr saying Donegal had a penalty, and I switched over immediately. And it was a very poor penalty, let's be fair, but still, credit where credit's due. Mayo, the keeper, saved it and went down the other end. They got the final score of the game. They sealed it, and the hooter went off. And sure, I mean, it's usual Mayo, isn't it? Cue the thousands of kids running onto the pitch to celebrate. And but yeah, no, I'm delighted for Mayo though. It's a great achievement for them, considering where they could have been at the end of the day. They could have been facing towards playing Division 2 football next season again, like they did a couple of years ago, which is not what they need right now. And now they have a chance to win some silverware. It's absolutely fantastic for them. For Donegal, I mean, I thought Donegal would have been in the league final at the start of the season. I thought it might have been them and possibly either Kerry or Galway. I wasn't quite sure between the two of them, but I was certain that Donegal would. And especially after the opening couple of rounds, the way they bet Dublin, they came back and bet Kerry, I was certain they were getting there. But then, I mean, you saw the Galway game, there were 17 points to no score down, and I think from there, I don't know whether Jim just said, right, screw this, we don't want to be there, or they just took their foot off the gas, but they've ended the league poorly enough. And yeah, I guess Jim kind of got his wish now. He won't have to play a league final the week before they go out against Derry. But yeah, no, great win for Mayo. Great confidence for them. And yeah, they should be in for a cracking final now against Kerry in next Sunday.
Yeah, no, it certainly will be. Obviously, a repeat of that league final, that iconic league final in 2019 when Mayo got over the line. We have a couple of comments in here. Gavin O'Reilly says here, Jimmy's fixing matches, Jimmy's fixing games. And then hope Mayo go on to win the league. You know what happens in the championship when Mayo win the league, 2001, 2019, 2023. Could we be seeing it again? That's from Gavin O'Reilly. Good to see you back on the channel, Gavin. Great to have you back. Gavin, of course, Roscommon, man. I want to get your thoughts, if you can, on Roscommon going up and kind of what you made of their performance in the Westmeath game. Because I have to say, we'll come back to the Westmeath game, but I thought in the first quarter that Roscommon were going to blow Westmeath away and just didn't proceed to go like that. So where do you put Roscommon compared to other seasons? Yeah, I think the one thing that has to be key about this is that we don't get caught up in circumstantial analysis, if you get what I mean. Because a lot of the time what happens with situations like this is circumstantial analysis. Because the league finished the way it did and Mayo now finished top, there will be a lot more positivity than if results had gone badly for them and they had ended up relegated anyway. Like Tyrone decimated Dublin and Healy Park, yet they still got relegated. And I feel like there'll be a lot more negativity around how their league went, when in reality, they probably should have beaten Kerry at home, and then that would have been them in a league final, not relegated. That's how close Tyrone were to the top echelon. So I feel like people do just need to take the league with a massive spoon of salt. It showed what every team was capable of, to be honest. Showed what everyone was capable of, for good and for bad. Most teams had a great win. Most teams had a terrible defeat. And Dublin's really bad defeat game today, which we'll get onto against Tyrone and Healy Park. We were very bad today. But yeah, I think it's important that, we know, okay, every team is capable of this level, but you have to look at the substance behind it, the depth of each squad, and what they have done in previous seasons. And that's why, in my opinion, you have to look at Galway, you have to look at Donegal, you have to look at Dublin, Kerry, the teams that have such strength in depth, and you go, right, who can make a really good crack of it for the entire year. But for Mayo, it's an incredible achievement, especially from the start of the league. I'll be honest, especially after the first two games and McStay's interview where he was talking about, kind of blaming the new rules and everything like that. I was thinking, this is a recipe of being a bad league for Mayo. And the way they've just turned it around has been unbelievable. So massive credit to them, massive credit to McStay. And now they have a chance of getting some national silverware where they play against Kerry, who, being honest, just like with McStay, I've got the sense from the start of the year that if he doesn't get the results that Kerry want, this could be the last year for Jack O'Connor. And when it was looking like they were potentially not that far off getting relegated, I was thinking if they get relegated, then it's you must win the All-Ireland or you're out the door. For them to not only avoid relegation, but somehow get into a league final is an incredible turn up for the Bucks. It was an unbelievable performance against Galway. Brilliant goals. They showcased their attacking ability. 323 racked up away from home in Galway. That's one hell of a performance, one hell of a result.
Yeah, and there was even one point, I remember Kerry were 215 to 213 up, and Galway, I think, were just about ahead of them on points difference by 2. So it was like, that's how close it was. It was absolutely outrageous. And I mean, look, this was a very entertaining game. I had it on my laptop. I was keeping up to date with it whenever I could. Like the opening 10, 15, 20 minutes were electric. There was 3 goals in it. It was unbelievable. They both went hammer and tongs for it. And yeah, like you said, look, for Jack O'Connor, he has to win. He does have to win the All-Ireland this year. There's no point questioning that. He can win the league and they'll win the Munster Championship if we're being, realistic. Yeah. But for Kerry, not even getting to the final, they have to win it this year. I even have a feeling even if they do win the All-Ireland, he won't be there next year. I feel like he will see this year out and then probably move on. But yeah, no, this is the step in the right direction though. And look, to go away to Galway to score 323 is nothing short of exceptional. It's absolutely brilliant. And like, especially when you look across who got scores for it. I mean, Paul Gainey ended with 7 points. David Clifford only scored 3 points today. Yeah. When you actually think of it like that, 320 wasn't scored by David Clifford, and even Paddy Clifford scored 2 points. So 318 out of a possible 323 was scored by non-Cliffords, which is, I think, I'd say he'd be probably most pleased about that, because there's a lot of people that will obviously say that they're very heavily reliant on David Clifford. But if the Gainies can turn up, if Gavin White can turn up, Tony Brosnan's, these players can turn up, then Kerry will have absolutely no issue whatsoever. And in my opinion, they'll be one of the hots-on favourites to win the All-Ireland without a shadow of a doubt, and they'll fear absolutely no team. I even read from the Irish Examiner there, just when I was reading the match report, that from Maurice Brosnan, their 30-point total came with just 2 wides as well. I mean, that's exceptional shooting, especially at a tough away ground in Salt Hill. And every single sub scored as well. You know, they've hit 545 in their last 2 games. You know, and like that, they racked up a great tally against Tyrone as well. Like they scored 118 against Donegal. They are putting up massive scores to their credit. Like if they can maybe just sort out bits of their defense, because they're still letting in a few, you know, leaky sort of goals, then in my opinion, like when especially when they're playing counter-attacking football, there's no better team in the country to watch than Kerry. And yeah, I think we're going to be in for a very, very good league final. Mayo have obviously beaten Kerry this year, so Kerry will want to try and get a bit of retribution for that, you know, and for Jack O'Connor to win a national title again as well would be massive for his confidence, for the squad's confidence as well. But yeah, no, look, I don't think Galway will be overly disappointed. I'd say, look, their main aim will be championship, and they've had a very, very good league campaign. You know, they dismantled Donegal. They threw the game against Derry away, which ironically was like Derry were just awful in this league, and the fact they still got that draw was impressive from them, but Galway should have won that game. They weren't even too bad today, to be fair to them. Just I think Kerry were just that little bit sharper, that little bit better. But overall, I think Galway have had a decent league campaign. I certainly think Paul Joyce will come out of it with a lot more positives than negatives.
No, he certainly will. And then Gavin chose in here. He said, came back from Mullingar, had Tyrone, Dublin on the TV, then the other 3 on tabs on the laptop. Kerry and Mayo were both 7th at times and now in the league final. Absolute madness. I mean, that speaks to the level of competition that was in this league throughout the entire season, which brings me, you know, nicely along to Tyrone and Dublin. But just before we get there, I do want to make the point about the Cliffords, because like you mentioned there, how 318 came from the boot of players that weren't Paddy or David Clifford, and how that's a real positive for Kerry. It definitely is, because it shows, you know, they've got other threats, they've got other weapons, but it's such a catch-22. I always find that, like, Dublin in the late 2000s, early 2010s got that launched at us about Bernard Brogan, that we were way too reliant on Bernard Brogan. Monaghan got that lobbed at them that they were way too reliant on Conor McManus. And Kerry have had that they are way too reliant on David Clifford. But like, when you have a generational player in your team, you want to try and get the ball into their hands as much as you possibly can, because they are the players that are most likely to do the damage. Like, we literally saw the exact same thing with Kerry, with Louise Niver-Hurtig. It was always, oh, you're way too reliant on Louise. Well, it's like, but she's the best player in the forward, so obviously you're going to try and get the ball to her as quickly as you can. And especially in the big games, you want your big players on the ball in the big moments. And for Kerry, it is really, really good that they have other threats like Dylan Gainey, like Paul Gainey, etc. But, you know, when it's coming down the home stretch, if they're level, we still know who they're going to try work the ball to. You can score however much you want in the league, but we still know who you're going to try work the ball to. So yeah, it's a real interesting catch-22. Do you build the team around those players? Do you try and kind of do you try and build it around them to the point where they are the heartbeat of the team, or do you try and take the burden off them as much as you possibly can and let them strut their stuff? It's a really, really interesting question. But we'll move on to Tyrone and Dublin. Tyrone 220, Dublin 116. Tyrone absolutely blow Dublin away at Healy Park, but still get relegated. Speaking to just how competitive this league has been this season, Tyrone are getting relegated with 7 points. Like, it's just absolutely bizarre. You think about those close games that they had. They very arguably should have beaten Kerry in the game that they had them at home. David Clifford worked wonders that day with the hat-trick. If they'd won that game, they'd be in a league final. Like, that's how tight this league has been. That's how unforgiving and cutthroat this league has been. And instead of finding themselves in a league final, they find themselves relegated. But like, the truth is, anybody who's been paying attention to their performances during the league, Tyrone are still one of the top teams in the country, and definitely outside shot this year for the All-Ireland. But then I think in moving forward future years, real contenders. They've got a serious team there. You look at some of the players that they have coming through, from Shea O'Hare to Owen McElhone to the Canavan boys. They've got a hell of a team, and Dublin were blown away by them, and it felt weird that at full time Tyrone with the team going down. It's pretty wild.
Like they've won their last 3 games, and in my opinion, excuse me, the only game that they've not performed this year was Armagh. That was the only game this year where they were poor. And ironically, I think me and Matthew from the Gaelic Statsman said that Tyrone would wipe the floor with Armagh that game. So of course they decided to play poor in that game. But no, like that was the only poor performance they've had all season. Like they should have, like you said, they should have beaten Kerry. They probably should have beaten Galway. You know, like they've had some really, like anyone in this division, bar obviously Derry, who had their tough season, anyone could have gotten relegated. Anyone could have gotten to the final. And like, you know, truth being told, it's the 7 best teams in the county at the moment, and any one of those 7 teams will fancy their shot at winning the All Ireland this year. There's no question about that. And yeah, no, look, Tyrone were the much better side today. Like Conor Callahan, you know, he got his goal, but kind of after that, it was a very quiet day for him at the office. Like Tyrone just went into ultra mode. You know, look, it was in a way it was more of an important game for Tyrone than it was Dublin. Like Dublin. If they got to the league final, brilliant. But if they didn't, then, you know, so be it. They move on to the championship. Like Tyrone, their lives were basically on the line here. And listen, they played some terrific football. They played some absolutely scintillating football. Like, I mean, you mentioned the Canavins, Niall Morgan. I mean, he's Manuel Neuer. He's such a sweeper keeper. It's outrageous. Like these rules suit him down to a T. And yeah, no, it's really unfortunate for them that they are going down, because like they've proven it today that they can compete at this level and they can beat these teams, and rather comfortably as well. They showed it against Kerry. They've shown they beat Donegal very comprehensively away from home as well. Do you know, they've been exceptional, and they'll be, if not All Ireland contenders. I could certainly see them pushing Donegal and Armagh all the way in Ulster. Do you know, like it'd be very hard to pick between any one of them at the moment. Even Monaghan as well. Do you know, it's gonna be a very, very evenly contested Ulster Championship. Like any team can win any game. You know, you wouldn't be shocked if any one of them did win it. But yeah, no, look, it is unfortunate for them that they are going down. But look, I expect them to bounce back straight away. They have, like you said, you mentioned the players that they have coming up, and I mean, when you have the Canavan brothers in your team as well, then you've got every chance in the world of beating anybody. So yeah, no, I'll expect them to come back up straight away, and like you said, I certainly expect them to be contenders for the All Ireland this year, and it would not surprise me if they picked up an Ulster title as well.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't rule them out at all. Like you look at the quality that they have coming through off the back of under 20 All Irelands and etc. And you look at the strength and depth that they had when they won the All Ireland only in 2021. Like they had such a strong panel. A lot of those lads left because they weren't getting game time, but players like Rory Brennan have returned. Like there is a real framework there for Tyrone to, you know, be serious contenders again. I think with O'Rourke at the helm, they have a super team. I wouldn't be worried about the relegation at all, because the reality is they went down swinging. I'd be a lot more worried about Derry's relegation, because my God, they were terrible today. We'll get on to that game later on. We have a couple of comments in here about Dublin. NIRB says, Dublin not at the races. Some Dubs fans left in 45 minutes into the game. Hopefully Cluxton has a speedy recovery, as according to the team doctor, he's got a leg injury. Yeah, I mean, it would be very interesting to see just in general how they approach it. Gavin Sheridan is a completely different package to Stephen Cluxton in goal. And I feel like that does then impact the way that the rest of the team play, because Sheridan's coming out, but Cluxton isn't. And it's interesting to see how that goes. Gavin has a great question here. He said, would you be worried with the inconsistency of Dublin's performances? Honestly, no. I know that's like, as I constantly go back to, the league is to kind of showcase what you're capable of. We have shown in some really, really good performances, especially the one away to Kerry, that, you know, the future isn't as bleak as maybe some people thought it was, when players like Fenton McCarthy, Mick Fitzsimons, John Small, Mannion, McCaffrey all left. Like, that is absolutely a staggering list of players to lose in the off season. And the fact that we were solid and kind of pushing for a league final, yes, we missed it in the end. I'm not worried about Dublin, to be honest. Nowhere near as worried as I was in 2022. I remember being like, I feel like we were far away from the All Ireland that year. But this year, I wouldn't rule this out, man. I really think it's open. Like, I don't think that there's any team that is like absolutely nailed on. I think Donegal, in my opinion, along with Galway, are probably the two front runners right in this moment. But I think Kerry are right behind them. And then any of the other teams that were in Division 1, I wouldn't rule them out. And Monaghan, Roscommon, like you could make your case as well for a wild card team from Division 2 there. But I really, really think it's anybody's. Brian O'Riordan here says, absolutely dreadful performance from Dublin, erratic shooting and poor shot selection. League was about finding new players. Some of the greatest to play the game have retired. And also, it was a brilliant last day. 4 teams competing for the league finals and 5 could have been relegated. I mean, that just is absolutely insane. But the more crazy the final day of the league is, the better it is for fans. Like, just the more enjoyable it is and everything like that. Yeah, there's a part of me that prefers the YouTube live streams because you're able to throw a couple of comments in there and kind of engage with it and everything like that. But we have to move on to the final game in Division 1 then. It was Armagh 4-24, Derry 1-18 at the Athletic Grounds. We don't need to spend too long on this. This was just a Derry team that was really lacking any real motivation in this game. And they kind of showed up just to get through this game, and Armagh kind of smelled blood, especially in the early stages of the second half when they banged in those goals. And Shane McGuigan getting sent off, there goes your main source of scoring. For Derry, look, 118 isn't a bad tally to put up at all, but 424 is a dreadful one to concede. And just looking at some of the goals they scored, especially the third one, I think, or the fourth one, that would look like that was one of those, oh, for fuck's sake, goals where like there's not a challenge put in, there's not a hand laid on him. And it was one of those where you're like, Derry just need to get through this. They just need to get through this game, get out the other side. It was one of those where it's kind of similar to what Tyrone had last year against Dublin in Croke Park, where you realise it's going to be a beatdown. You're like, oh, we just need to get out of this damage control mode. Derry need to completely put this league behind them. They need to move on and completely focus on the Donegal game. They are capable of beating Donegal, I have no doubts about that, but they need to improve their form now.
Yeah, and I was watching this game for Scorpio, and it was actually nearly just in a way depressing watching how bad Derry were. Like, look, Armagh were super. Armagh were the better side. You know, there's no question about that. Like the likes of Stephen Campbell, Ross McQuillan, Connor Turbett were all superb. And yeah, like I said, the third goal kind of just summed up their day. Like I didn't even realize it was a goal. Like there was confusion because like Turbot took the shot, keeper caught it, but then he was pushed back into the goals, and then they continued on playing. Next minute, the green flag was up, and I was there having to check Twitter to see was who actually is credited with that. Is that an own goal or is that Turbot's goal? But yeah, no. When Shane McGuigan got the second yellow card, it was like you just knew it was going to be a long day. Like Conor Glass was still showing, you know, his very best, you know, with some good 2-pointers, and was still trying to drive them on, you know, because he's got that mentality. But just in general, Armagh swept the floor with them. No real issues at all. No real worries about them going down. You know, literally from the first minute of the game, they were right on it. And yeah, look, it brings an end to the league for Armagh. They've survived. So unlike Clare, they won't be All-Ireland champions that go down. And yeah, no, they can build on this now. Turn their Ulster to focus on that. For Derry, like I said, they're capable of beating a Donegal. I don't think they will, but they're certainly capable of it. I wouldn't sit here right now and absolutely guarantee that they'll come back up straight away next year. I think Tyrone will. I don't know about Derry, but yeah, no, they need a major revamp. You know, ever since that league final last year against Dublin, they've just been a shell of what they were for the last, you know, couple of years. So they're going to have to try and find a solution very, very quickly, because today was just a really, really poor performance. And like Armagh were missing players as well due to a bug, I think, in the camp. So yeah, they were really, really, really poor.
Yeah, no, they were. And I could have commented here about that from Gavin. He says Derry going back down to Division 4. But in all seriousness, what happened to Derry? They were really building something. They were. And to me, it just seems like Derry just went all in. Like if they're playing poker and they had a fairly big pot in front of them and they were just like, screw it, we'll get Mickey in. We'll go for it. Like we think we have a good enough team to win the All-Ireland. And you can't tell me that they didn't. Like, you look at it, I know Armagh battered them today, but like Derry beat Armagh in that Ulster final on penalties just after Gallagher had left. They are Armagh's equal, and they were at the time. And the fact that Armagh were to get over the line in the All-Ireland, you can't tell me that Derry wouldn't have been able to do it should everything have stayed in the conditions that it was. I think it was the way that Gallagher left that was very, very rare, to put it mildly. And then, you know, Mina came in, did a good job. I think like Mina probably in hindsight might have been the shrewder appointment. They went all in with Mickey. he got given no rope. The minute they hit turbulence, it all fell apart. And they've never looked really the same since. It's like they've lacked... I think, like Matthew was saying it to me. Matthew was like, what do you think is the difference between them this year and them last year? Because you've seen in performances, like especially the Donegal one, they battled to the end against Donegal. And some of their players like Conor Glass, Shane McGuigan were outstanding. And I was like, I can't really put my finger on it, but I was like, I really do think that this time last year, they truly believed they were the best team in Ireland. I really believe that they believed that. And it came across in the way that they carried themselves, the way that they held themselves, the way that they played the game. And like they had the basis to believe that. They were back-to-back Ulster champions. Glen had won the All-Ireland Club Championship. They had this, conveyor belt of talent coming through from the under-20s, like Lachlan Murray, etc. And it just feels like defeats like the one to Donegal, to Galway, has rattled them a bit. And I feel like they need a manager that can take them up, because I really think when Tally came in, it didn't strike me as the guy that they wanted. And then when they were losing and he was complaining about the rules and all, I was like, I struggle to believe that you're inspiring the players the way that they were inspired previously, even last year. Because whatever you think about Mickey, his record is unbelievable, like in terms of winning All Irelands and being successful. And I thought at the time that he could have been the guy to take them over the line, but it just didn't prove to be. And it is sad. And I hope that they return. But by God, they need to turn their form around, because that Donegal game is coming fast down the track. Brian O'Riordan here says Dublin badly need a ball winner at midfield. Performances against Galway, Kerry and Derry were outstanding, disappointing today. Yes, I completely agree, Brian. Kerry, my highlight of the league. Brian, as a Dub, who would you be wanting to put in midfield? If you're still watching, who would you want to put in midfield? Because obviously we have a lot of options. We've Paddy O'Coffey-Byrne, we've Killian McGuinness, we have Brian Howard, who's been wearing the number 8 jersey. We have even outside shots like players such as Peter Duffy from Coola, Adam Waddick from Thomas Davis, etc., etc. So which ones would you be likely to go with? Tom Lahiff is another name that might be worth a shout there in midfield. So that's Division 1 finished. Mayo and Kerry are in the league final. Tyrone and Derry are relegated. Moving on now to Division 2. And I'm going to throw all these together because we have a lot to get through. Monaghan messed it up. 217 to 24 points down, beat them in Clonus. And Roscommon also messed it up, drawing against Westmeath at Cusack Park after dominating the first quarter, scoring 2 goals. I thought that they were going to blow them away. Then they went on to not blow them away. That opened the door for Meath, but Meath bottled it too. Louth beat them in Enniskeen, 119 to 17 points. And then, of course, Cork did the necessary by beating Cavan away in Breffni Park. Very impressive win over a Cavan team that were flying high. Cork 21 points, Cavan 19. Cork are safe. It is Down and Westmeath who are relegated, and it is Roscommon and Monaghan who are promoted.
I think Meath are probably the biggest losers from today, to be quite honest with you, literally. Like, they will be absolutely kicking themselves. I could even see, like, I had it on kind of in the background while I was watching the Clare Offaly game, and you could just hear, as soon as like the final whistle went in Mullingar, you could just hear some of the Meath crowd starting to get excited because they realised they had a chance. But they were giving themselves way too much to do. Right from the off, Louth were by far the better side. And like Louth, it's really taken them until the final game for them to perform to their absolute best. They were without Sam Mulroy, and yet Louth produced a stellar shooting display, you know, and to avoid relegation as well. And I would have not liked to have seen them relegated, because I do really like them as a team. I love a lot of their players, Conor Grimes, Sam Mulroy, Craig Lennon. Like, they have a terrific squad of players, and it'd be a shame to see them down back playing Division 3, because I think they're a solid, you know, Leinster team. They got to the quarterfinals last year on merit, and it'd be a real shame for them. But no, for me, they just looked unrecognizable today, to put it mildly. Yeah, it was just really, really poor. I can't put my finger on it. The last 2 games, they've been shocking. Like against Monaghan last week, Monaghan wiped the floor with them. Monaghan were schooling them. You know, like, I believe Monaghan are a Division 1 team. I'll be frank enough to you. Even with McManus. Well, cheers. But even with McManus getting retired, retiring, they're still a Division 1 team. They have some terrific players. They have some really good young players, and they have some good shooters in their team. But yeah, no, for me, it's really, really disappointing. For Roscommon, they are lucky. Like they were going down a really bad route. They were in such good form, and then that Meath result probably I kind of looked as, look, it's a freak result. That there was the really bad weather that day. It can happen. The defeat to Cavan was like, oh, okay, right. This is concerning now. But then they were in such cruise control. Like this was almost the almighty bottle, and that's coming from me, an Arsenal fan. We know everything about bottling. So, like, they were so dominant in this encounter. They were motoring along nicely. Kieran Murta got a goal in the 5th minute. You know, Keane McKeown, Derek Craig were going really well. Were really well as well. Like the Murtas are just brilliant players. Dimmer Murta was having a great game as well, and just like they were winning 2-10 to 1-5 at halftime. And I was even surprised Westmeath even had the 1-5. They had nothing to play for. They just didn't seem to be kind of really up for it. But listen, to their credit, Westmeath have all season performed excellently. And this was, and it's ironic that it's taken them to the very, very last kick of the season from Kieran Martin, you know, and like, it was an absolutely beautiful, it was a peach of a score as well, you know, and even just to see the fist pump and everything, even though they've gone down, just to see what it meant to them was, it was kind of sweet to see it. But yeah, no, Roscommon nearly threw this game away fairly badly. You know, like Westmeath were getting a couple of late 2-pointers as well, which kind of brought the tally back up a small bit and was starting to make Roscommon panic a small bit. But I would say Davy Burke is just more relieved than happy tonight just to get through that. And listen, Westmeath go down fighting, and credit to them. They have been brilliant in the league. Just results, they've just been so unlucky in the league, you know. But I will absolutely back them to get through Division 3 next year. And it is ironic that it is them and Down going down, and especially after coming up last year, you know. And like, you'd feel for Down in a way after beating Monaghan, but I suppose Monaghan, look, in a way they were in the league final already. They didn't really have much to play for, so they probably weren't too bothered about losing this game. But no, Down performed very well. Pat Havern finished with 8 points. Ryan McGall finished with 4 points. Ryan McAvoy and Eugene Brannigan impressed in the middle. They had 4 points combined. So they'll take a lot of positives from that, and they were the more dominant side. Monaghan, you know, like we just said throughout the league, tried to push a bit of a comeback towards the end, but I think they could kind of sense from early on that they were going down and probably lost a bit of motivation towards the end. And it is a shame for them, but you know, they've had some good performances. They got a good win against Cork earlier on the season. But just, not enough for them. And to be back down in Division 3 next year. And for Cork, listen, they're the specialists of every single year. We say they're going to go down.
Think they're going down, and then
they somehow just survive. You know, and there's always issues with Cork football. There's problems with Cork football, and then they stay up. It's I don't know how they do it every year, but fair play to them. Fair play to them. Like, it's brilliant from them. But they got the job done today. They were much better than Cavan. They were leading pretty much, I think, from the very first whistle. I don't think they lost their lead at all during this game. Sean McDonough finished with 4 points. Chris O'Jones has had an unbelievable league campaign as well. You know, was it the West game? I believe he got the hat trick of goals. And
there was a stage when he had like more goals than most of the teams in the league across all 4 divisions. He started the league like a house on fire. Like, he was just unbelievable.
Yeah, exactly. No, he was having a sensational league campaign. It was good for Brian Hurley to be, you know, back playing as well, you know, scoring 2 points as well. He's been a brilliant player for Cork over the years, and I'm kind of glad he's back in playing this year, because they didn't have Stephen Sherlock playing this year, which I think is just bonkers, because he's there scoring. Like a friend of mine who works with the Echo, he's saying he's scoring 115 in like club league games. Like, lads are just marking him who shouldn't be marking him. You know, so to be without him, and sort of the problems they've had, you know, outside camp as well, and the issues they have with like supporters turning up to matches. I mean, you saw the max exodus after the Kilkenny hurling game that they played for the Roscommon football game. It was non-existent at all. You know, the crowd just did not want to be a part of it at all. For them to survive another year Division 2, it's brilliant for them. They could not go to Division 3. It would have been an absolute disaster for Cleary, and that could have actually been the end of him, to be honest with you, if they did go down to Division 3 playing Tailteann Cup. But no, they've survived, and great credit to them. Cavan will take a lot of positives from the league as well. But just overall, Cork with a better side today. They can't really have any complaints about that. But it's again a very entertaining game, a very entertaining division as well. Brought us a lot of great moments, and certainly spiced it up this year.
Certainly, yeah. Like, I think just the Division 2 this season was absolutely fantastic. We've a load of comments coming in, lads. I'd love to see it. Gavin O'Reilly has a few in here, but I'll start with Brian O'Riordan, because he's answering a question, that I asked about the midfield partnership with Dublin. He said Howard and Lahif, I think, will be the midfield partnership. I think probably agree with you, Brian. I think when it comes down to it, Desi will probably look for experience in the midfield, and Howard and Lahif definitely are the two most experienced options available to him. And Brian also says Monaghan and Roscommon deserve to be promoted. Meath were absolutely dreadful, and they're on the same side of the draw as Dublin. Dublin allowed Leinster final, which would be the third year, I think, in a row that Dublin allowed to play each other in Leinster final. So we got a power two emerging there. And then a couple of comments in here from Gavin O'Reilly as well. He says Roscommon really lucky. Cavan and Meath both messed up. Could have came first, but will take second. Of course, Gavin's a proud Roscommon man. He said Neary from Strokestown is a gem for Roscommon defence. He was taken off at halftime subs, probably not having an impact as well. Westmeath, in fairness, deserved way more than 1 point in this campaign. Couldn't agree more. Cavan as well missed a 2-pointer against Cork with the head-to-head with Roscommon, who drew, would have gone up instead of them. I think Cavan will be sickened. Galway, Roscommon in 2022, Dublin 2023, Donegal, Armagh 2024, Roscommon, Monaghan 2025. Hard to not see Derry and Tyrone go up next year. Absolutely agree. Usually whoever goes down bounces straight back up, because especially what I was saying, I did believe at the start of this year that the top 8 teams are in Division 1. I would definitely be hesitant now about Derry, whether they would beat Roscommon and whether they would beat Monaghan. Haven't seen their performance there today against Armagh. But yeah, I don't know. There's in previous years, like Dublin and Derry in 2023 were head and shoulders above everybody else. And it was so obvious they were going out from the get-go. The fact that it looked dodgy for a while there for both Roscommon and Monaghan after defeats doesn't fill me with the same confidence that I had in Dublin and Derry that year. But I do think they were the two best over the course of the league, but they did have their mess ups, and then that means that they still have stuff to work on, which probably is a positive to take from the whole thing. For me, I'm the more disappointed in them out of the league campaign, that like they promised so much, and then at the end they just flattered to deceive a little bit there at the end. And unfortunately, that is what Robbie Brennan is walking into. There were a lot of years under Andy McEntee like that, where Meath would have a solid enough campaign. They'd win quite an eye-catching result in Leinster. They'd put up a big score. People would be thinking, can they finally give Dublin a test? No, that was usually the way that it went. So I hope that Robbie can build something, because Meath and Cork are absolutely identical in terms of, if you look at, like, they were massively successful in the 80s and 90s. They've had a really rough decade. Everybody looks to them as the challenge to the obvious, champions in their province. Cork are looked at to challenge Kerry. Meath are always looked at to challenge Dublin. They haven't done it as much as they would want to in the last decade, but to be fair to Cork, they have actually beaten Kerry in the last 10 years. But everybody wants to see them get back to where they should be. And they have a conveyor belt of talent. So it stands to be, in my opinion, Robbie Brennan, in my opinion, is the right man to take Meath forward, and I hope that he can do it. We'll move then to Division 3's round 7. Kildare beat Antrim 126-115 in St. Connett's Park. They did their job, which meant that Clare's victory over Offaly was in vain at Cusack Park in Ennis. They won 214-2-9. It's their defeat at the hands of Sligo, which ultimately proved to be the killer blow for them getting promoted. Sligo, on the other hand, beat Leitrim 32 points to 10, rounding off a truly miserable league campaign for Leitrim. I haven't seen a league campaign this bad in a long time. Fermanagh then beat Laois 118-213 in Brewster Park, and that is the end of Division 3 for another year.
Yeah, I was covering the Fermanagh Laois game, and at one stage Fermanagh were going up. They were ahead of both Clare and Kildare. So it's hard to say the two of them together. But yeah, it was mental, because at the start of the day I would not have thought Fermanagh would at any stage be in the top 2, and that was probably ignorance on my behalf, thinking that Kildare would probably just wipe the floor with Antrim, as a lot of people probably expected. And yet, amazingly, Kildare were 14 points to 9 down at halftime. I could not believe what I was reading. To be losing by 5 points at halftime, was it, you said it last week, or was it Matthew? I think it might have been Matthew, saying you can lose to Clare and Offaly, promotion, candidates, sure, but losing to Antrim would just be a big no-no. That would open a can of worms. That would lead to massive questions, and it would question the squad as well, and mentalities and qualities and everything, and that's just not what they needed. But no, they got over the line in the end. They scored, I'm trying to do the maths in my head now, they scored 117 in the second half, which is a very, very good return. But yeah, no, they got the job done as people expected. Not in the way they probably would have hoped and would have wanted, but they've got back up to Division 2. They need to be in Division 2. You know, they couldn't spend another year back in Division 3. And yeah, no, look, fair play to them. They managed to bounce back from 2 tough defeats with a hard-fought win, and it's subsequently relegated Antrim. And like, in fairness to Antrim, they're a lot better in a way than I think relegation deserves. Like, they are a good team. They have some good players in their squad, and they can pull off results, you know, on any given day. But just overall in the league this year, they've just not been good enough. And yeah, I suppose, look, I again kind of repeat myself, but you know, I don't see a reason why they can't bounce back straight away from Division 4 back to Division 3 next year. They certainly have the quality to do so. Leitrim, I mean, I don't see Stephen Poacher. I would be very surprised if Stephen Poacher makes it to the Connacht Championship. I think he's been on the rampage.
To be honest.
Oh, I agree 100%.
Yeah.
I listening to some of his interviews, I can't believe what I'm listening to, you know, and like this would not have happened under Andy Moore, and he had standards up. They were playing nice football. Like, they got promoted from Division 4 last year. I mean, there was something like this is just falling apart across one night, basically, you know, across a couple of games. And like, look, I was happy to play today's game. It would have been a shambles if once again they decided not to play this game, but they played the game. It's a hammering, but it's better than giving a walkover. But look, in fairness to Sligo, look, they turned it on. They were fantastic. Sligo had 12 different scores as well, which is just insane. But look, Sligo, they finished off the league campaign on a positive note after a very, very, you know, poor start. You know, when a lot of people, including myself, thought they would have done a lot better. They would have been in the promotion race. But look, they'll move on from the league. They've got a couple of wins. They'll move on to the Connacht Championship now. I think they'll have a better championship campaign than they did a league campaign, or at least they'll certainly put it. I feel like after seeing the league now, they know what they need to work on. And so yeah, we're going up. I'm delighted. It's probably I can remember Gareth Bale in 2015 after Wales lost to I think it was Bosnia and Herzegovina, but they still got to the Euro, saying it's the best loss of my life. Well, you could put this statement here. It's a great loss. But like, we were winning by 5 points at halftime. Cottle Flynn scored a fantastic goal to kind of really put the final nail in the coffin in a way. And like look, Clare had their goal chances very early on. They could easily have had a couple of goals after nearly 5 minutes into the game, but they didn't take their chances. We took some of ours. You know, with some positive performances as well from certain players out the field as well. Jordan Hayes in midfield has proven a real solid player. John Furlong, the centre back, had a good game. Paddy Dunnigan, you know, has just proven to be, you know, like our number one goalkeeper right now, and will probably be keeping that jersey for a long time. He plays outfield for his club Shamrocks, which is even, but I suppose after seeing the goal, you probably saw they scored against Laois there a couple of rounds back. I suppose maybe a lot of people might not be surprised, but yeah, look, Clare kept pushing on. They kept pushing on. They got a late goal. I believe was it from Aaron Griffin? Yes, I think it was Aaron Griffin who got the goals late on, but it just wasn't enough for them. It's it's crazy to think that Clare have beaten both us and Kildare, and they're still not going up. Like you said, it was the defeat to Sligo which has really, really killed them. They'll be devastated over that, because they've proven that that they're good enough to be in Division 2. And look, they'll fancy their chances going up next year. They won't fear Westmeath. They won't fear Down. You know, they'll absolutely give it a good rattle next year. But yeah, no, look, for me, it's crazy to me that like this time last year we were a goal, like one score away from Division 4. You know, we were one score. Like, if Limerick had scored a goal last year when we bet them, we'd have been in Division 4. And now we're going up to Division 2 next year. The job that Mickey Hard has done since he's came in. We brought in a coach this year as well who's done a fantastic job. I can't think of his name off the top of my head off at the moment. But and I'm delighted for Declan Kelly as well, because he took a lot of stick last year. Over, obviously, look, we had a very poor year last year, but it was just a turbulent year in general. It was just a really, really bad year just for everyone in Offaly football. But we've put it right this year. We've a young team. You know, you've Jack Bryant's in there, you've Keith O'Neill's, you've Cormac Egan's, who, look, he wasn't at his best today, but I haven't seen him play a bad game in God knows how long. So he's allowed to have a day off or something like that. you know, we have a good young squad coming through, a lot of good young footballers as well. Darren McDade as well, who was brilliant last week against Kildare. So yeah, no, look, I'm delighted to be back up in Division 2. Looking forward to the games next year. It's going to be difficult to stay up. Absolutely. We saw that a couple of years ago when we were up at Division 2, but we could easily have stayed up as well. Cork, you know, as Matthew said to me before, we're very fortunate to beat us in O'Connor Park that day. You know, we conceded a last minute goal to Meath in the league as well. We were winning against Clare at halftime that year as well, and you know, just kind of fell apart in the end. So, you know, I'm looking forward to next year, and it bodes well for the championship as well. We'll be facing either Carlow or Meath in the quarterfinals, so I'd give us absolutely every chance in the world of beating either one of those before eventually Dublin beat us in the semi-final. If we're being realistic about it, but no, there's plenty of positives to take from the league campaign, and yeah, overall, Offaly Kildare deserving to go up.
Yeah, no, I would agree. We've a lot of comments flying in here, guys. Love to see it. Brian O'Riordan says the last two winners of the All-Ireland were in Division 2, Dublin 2023 and Armagh 2024. As a fellow Dub, what would your prediction be? Right now, I haven't the breeze. Every team has been very, very inconsistent in this league campaign. I think if you were to push me on it and say, who would I back? I'd say right now, to narrow it down as much as I can, I'd probably go one of either Donegal, Kerry, or Galway. One of them three. I don't know if Dublin are. I think the losses that Dublin will have this year from Fenton, John Small, Mannion, McCaffrey. Like if Mick Fitzsimons, if we win the All Ireland this year, it's one of the most remarkable All Irelands that Dublin have ever won, and Desi would deserve astronomical credit for it. Gavin here says, joked about it a month ago, but yeah, we are getting 4 Mickey Hart derbies in Division 2 next year. Obviously, Derry, Louth, Tyrone, just absolutely sensational stuff. Then we have a couple of comments in here. Gavin as well says, Fermanagh were so competitive in the 2 last year with 5 points, didn't get back up to Division 3. Division 3 is such a bear trap. It certainly is. And Brian here says, what's your views on the new rule? Solo and go is a big positive. And then produce high scoring games and great games. Solo and go, 3-on-3, very positive. Don't like that kick out, has to go beyond the 40-meter line. Look, in all truth, I think they have been absolutely brilliant, the new rules. They just, every single game has been better. And that's why I've been like, absolutely banging my head against the wall when people have been actually criticizing them. I'm like, do you remember how shite the old game used to be? Like, do you really want to go back to that? Like, really? When people were on their phones in stadiums and all, you wouldn't be watching it. This version of the game is so much better. And yeah, there are still a couple of tweaks to make, but the point is they're making those tweaks, like the hooter and then having one more play. They've dodged a bullet with that. I absolutely guarantee they've dodged a future bullet with that, because there would have been a game where the hooter would have went and nobody would have known whether a goal should stand or a point should stand, etc., etc. And they've done themselves a big favor there. The goalkeeper tweak needed to be made, in my opinion. They made it. They had it down as 4 points for a goal. People didn't like that, so they went back to 3. Like, they are listening to the fans. They're making the tweaks. I love what they're doing, and no better man than Jim Gavin to be at the helm for that. We're going to move faster because we have a lot to get through. Division 4 is round 7. This was the important one, and Limerick did the job, beating Waterford 4-24 to 117 in Rathkeale. Wicklow beat Tipperary by 12 points to 21 in Clonmel. Wexford made it 7 from 7. Massive credit to them, beating Longford 218 to 110 away in Pearse Park. Longford really stuck in the mud now in Division 4. London and Carlow played out a really entertaining game in Ruislip. Carlow ultimately came out the right side of this one by 118 to 117. We're already nearly at the hour, so I don't think we have time to go deep into those games. We'll switch to the small ball. The Alliance Hurling Leagues, Division 1A. I have to do a double take at this score. Is this correct? Wexford 119, Limerick 112. That's a half-time score now in the football. Get with the programme.
Even just to give one mention to the football, James Naughton for Limerick scored 412 out of 424.
That is mental.
That is mental and fair. Like, great credit to him. That is absolutely outrageous. But yeah, I still don't know if this score is real or not. It's like, to see Limerick scoring 112 over 70 minutes and they scored 1-5 from play is nothing short of a small bit embarrassing from their perspective, considering the players that they have. Now, look, it was a dead rubber. for both sides. Wexford were gone. Limerick couldn't get to the league final. They couldn't get relegated. So I suppose, look, John Kiley was trying out players. Keith Roster would have been trying players in different positions, etc. But you'd have to be very concerned if you're a Limerick fan. Like, I know you can say, look, it's a dead game. Nobody cares about it. No one's going to remember this at the end of the year. But like, John Kiley was furious after the game. He was speaking to Sporting Limerick. We covered it for the Limerick Voice, and he said it himself. He said there was a lot of work to do. He's not got out of the league. He's not got what he wanted. Like, they've tried lads out. They've had some good performances. Like the Galway performance, they were very, very good. The Tipperary game, they won it, and you know, you've seen Tipperary. They've gotten to the league final. They've been arguably the best team in the league this year alongside Cork. But yeah, they've just been fairly average. Like against Kilkenny, Kilkenny blew them away. Absolutely blew them away, which I did not expect. Cork,
that was the Kilkenny team that were kind of on the ropes themselves. A lot of people were giving them abuse running into that game. A lot of people thought that Limerick were going to batter Kilkenny, and went completely the other way.
Absolutely. And like you look at the previous week, Kilkenny were all over the shop against Tipperary. They got 3 players sent off. Now, look, they shouldn't have. 3 of them shouldn't have been sent off.
Oh, open that chestnut.
Yeah. But yeah, no, they were just so poor in Nolan Park against Cork. They started off really, really slow. They came back into the game, but again, they didn't look like themselves. And I'm trying to think, what was the other game? They lost. They bet Galway. They've lost to Wexford. I'm having a brain. Clare at home. Like, they were very poor in that game. They started well, and then they fell apart, and it was a shambles of a performance. So Kiley will not be happy whatsoever. They have their injury problems. They got Darragh Donovan back last night, which was crucial for them. He played 60 minutes, which was good for his perspective. But yeah, no, I think John Kiley, look, it is the league at the end of the day. It shows you what you're capable of, and it shows you the squad depth, which Limerick have. They have insane. I think them and Cork have the 2 strongest squads in the country as we currently speak. But yeah, no, he will not have been happy with last night. Keith Roster, though, he'd be delighted. It's like they've beaten Clare and Limerick away from home, which is massive for them, you know, just in terms of confidence more than anything. And it'll give them a lot more belief going into the Leinster campaign as well, that they can beat anyone on any given day. And especially, I mean, you see them with Kilkenny over the last number of years. They've great battles over the years, and they always run each other very, very close. They bet Galway last year convincingly. Should have beaten Dublin, threw it away in the last minute. So, you know, Wexford now will feel a lot more confident despite the relegation. They finished above the All-Ireland champions as well in the group, which, you know, is great for them. Lee Chin, you know, is back playing hurling as well, you know, which is massive for them. Rory O'Connor, you know, is still had a very good league campaign as well, given the minutes that he's had. Conor Hearn had a very good game last night as well. Kevin Foley had a good game. So yeah, no, and they've a lot of good young players as well coming through, especially that team that were, you know, competing in the Leinster Under-20 Championship for the last number of years, the Dunbars and Burns and all that. So yeah, no, for Wexford, it's a massive win. It's a great win for them. It'll give them so much confidence going into the Leinster Championship. And yeah, I mean, I'm still in disbelief that this was the final score.
Yeah, a bit nuts, isn't it, to see one of the greatest teams I've ever seen in Limerick to put up such a small tally. Brian says here, Fitzsimons, McCaffrey, McCarthy, Fenton, Mannion, Small will be very hard to replace. Expect at least a semi-final. That is for Dublin season predictions. And he says Kerry, Monaghan, Offaly and Limerick to win the finals. Hopefully we get great games. I would be fairly confident to back that as well. I think Kildare and Offaly would be a really interesting league final to see that game played out in Croke Park, to see how it's maybe different from the provincial ground, etc. I think, yeah, I'll be very interested to see Mayo and Kerry as well. That's like a personal favourite. Just the rivalry between those 2 counties is unbelievable. The other 2 games, then Cork had a pretty easy win over Galway at Porky Queeve, it seems, 422 to 22 points, and Tipperary pipped Clare by 22 points to 118 in Semple Stadium. So Clare are relegated. Look, again, compared to the football, is it a bigger deal in your opinion to get relegated in hurling?
I think you're probably worse off getting relegated from Division 1A down to Division 1B than you are getting relegated from Division 1 to Division 2 in football. I just think, especially like Tyrone and Derry next year are going down, but they're still going to have some good games to look forward to. And look, Clare will as well. They'll have Wexford. They'll be playing Dublin. There is still some good games in there. Carlow on their day can absolutely give anyone a game. But then you're just kind of looking across, and look, it's great for the likes of Down and Kildare that they're going to get to play Clare and play all these teams. But for Clare, they don't want to be playing these teams, and they're not going to be like they're not going to learn anything from those games if we're being realistic about it. They're the All-Ireland champions at the end of the day. They're not going to learn much from hammering Kildare or hammering Down, as we're probably anticipating that's going to happen already. And they've Antrim, which if it's, I don't know if it'll be in a Corrigan Park or if it'll be in Cusack Park, but either way, again, they want to be playing the best teams, but as they've proven this year, they've not been good enough. It's been a very poor league campaign for Clare. Even last night when it was a nothing game, it was a dead game, they still couldn't get the job done, which will be a small bit worrying for Brian Lohan. They've not performed well. That Cork game, I'd say, was very damaging for them, and especially when they do have to face them in the first round, I'd say they'll be in a way petrified of Cork's attack once again. Their defense against Cork was atrocious. They were poor against Wexford. I wasn't worried about them after the first game against Kilkenny. I thought, okay, they're missing a couple of players. It's only the first game, they'll be fine. But then from Galway onwards, I was starting to think, okay, this is not good. And especially after Wexford, you were thinking they're in big trouble here. I suppose the biggest talking point from the game is that Brian, I don't know if you saw this, Brian O'Mara's hurl was stolen. And they're on the hunt now to trying to look for it. I hope he does get it back. I do like Brian as a player. It'd be ashamed to see him without his hurl for the league.
I remember seeing it up as well, and it was like Brian. I remember I read it wrong because I was knackered. I remember I read it like Brian O'Mara has been stolen from. It's like, who? What? He's bundled into the back of a van or something. Like what happened to him? But
you'd probably prefer that than stolen.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, I hope he does get his hurl back. Brian says here, he says, Tip Cork will be a great final. Defensively, Tip have improved a lot. Cork offensively have been great. Going to be a great final. I completely agree, Brian. I think when you look at the league campaign, especially on the hurling side, Tip and Cork have been by far the most consistent. They've been by far the best, and they've had, I would say, the most eye-catching wins. Kilkenny had a very eye-catching win over Limerick. But I think you look at Cork putting 6 goals past Clare, Tipperary demolishing Galway on the opening day. Like those have been kind of the standout wins for me in this league campaign. And yeah, I think definitely they are the teams that deserve to be in that league final. Gavin says here, is football more serious though? Like hurling leagues are even labelled right. It's even labelled right. Like Division 2 and hurling is really Division 3. Yeah, I mean, it pretty much is. It is when you talk about the standards. The best teams are in Division 1A. Like the best 7 teams this year are in Division 1A. Make your case for Waterford or Wexford, potentially being a close game. Dublin always put it up to Wexford as well. Offaly as well, getting promoted. Like there is arguments there. But speaking of them two, we have to talk about this because it's been everywhere. This game was not that eventful. It happened yesterday. Waterford got a relatively comfortable win after the red card for Offaly. But that's what we're going to talk about. There's been a lot of talk about this red card for Offaly. A lot of people saying that it shouldn't have been a red card. A lot of people saying that it absolutely should have been a red card. It's split opinion again, right down the middle. What do you think?
Well, this is going to be fun because James Mahon is not only my county man, he's my club man, and he's a relative of mine as well. So this is really hit home. Yeah, no, I was talking to James today at a match, and sure, I said to him, "Are you tired from beating up Waterford lads?" And sure, he just kind of gave me a look of saying, "Oh, for fuck's sake," just he I'd say he didn't want to talk about it at all. But Offaly PRO, whoever, I don't know who, I can't remember off the top of my head who it is, whoever it is, they deserve a raise for the picture they had for the full-time results. The picture just before like the hit came in. I think if I'd have been PRO, I might have been arrested for the things I might have said. I was not happy at all. I was fuming, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Like when it happened straight away, I just thought, this is going to be a red card, isn't it? Just watch. It's going to be a red card. Like, I'm not a fan of Sean Stack as a referee. I'm not a fan of Johnny Murphy at all. And they've gone even lower down in my estimations after today. Look, being a referee is a tough job. But there's good referees across the country and there's bad referees, and they fit the category of bad referees. I don't want to be attacking them, not attacking them personally. I'm just saying they're not good at their jobs. I could not believe what I saw. Like, I mean, even look, I know hindsight's a great thing with the slow motion and everything like that, but it just wasn't a red card. It just wasn't. Like he was very dramatic the way he went down. You know, like, I mean, Charlie Mitchell was beside him. He was just baffled at what, you know, Murphy was probably saying to Mahon as well. He misses out on a league final. Now, in a way, probably not the worst thing, because Offaly do have an under-20 game against Galway a couple of days later in the first round, and they'll be looking to try and defend their title in that. So it might not be the worst thing if he's suspended for it. But at the same time, the fact that he's going to miss out on a league final over this, I think Offaly need to try and get that appealed, and they need to try and get that won, because I don't like, it just wasn't a red card at all. It's a scandalous decision in my opinion. Like, I'm showing my bias here, but like, at the end of the day, it just wasn't a red card. Like, a lot of people, like, I mean, when you've got Colin Parkinson saying that it's not a red card and he does not like Offaly, you know you've made a bad decision. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's mental. But yeah, look, aside from that, like I said, look, Stephen Bennett scored 12 points. Tyke Burke was back for Waterford, and you know, he had a solid game. Austin Gleeson not there today, and he won't be there for the league final. It was reported today him, Kevin Mahoney and Conor Prunty won't be there for the league final, so I suppose it's positive from Offaly's perspective. Waterford will want Austin Gleeson back sooner rather than later. You know, like, I know he was back for the Westmeath game, but I don't know if it's injury or just they're trying to mind minutes. I genuinely don't know, but I'd say Waterford fans desperately want to see him back. And look, it wasn't nothing game for Offaly. We were through to the league final anyways. We've gotten our promotion, and we're absolutely delighted about that. So it kind of just was a free-flowing game. For us, the likes of Brian Dignan had his free taking on the day, just it wasn't good, but it's been very solid in the league campaign, so we can kind of let him off with yesterday. But even then, aside from that, I thought he had a very, very strong showing. He was big, he's strong, took his goal really well. Charlie Mitchell was coming into the game fierce well, up until Billy Nolan took him out. And this is kind of thing that kind of pissed me off as well. They deemed James Mahon's a red card, but Billy Nolan's wasn't. Like, either, like, I don't know. I don't even think Billy Nolan's in a way was even a red card, but like, you're thinking that one was a much harder hit. Mitchell had to go off because of it. You know, you're thinking like, you got to have standards. You got to, like, either both go off or none goes off. You know, you got to have standards there. But no, I was impressed with Turgainen as well. Starting his first game for Offaly as well. He was back after a bad injury he picked up just after the Offaly senior hurling final. You know, missed the Leinster club campaign for Cormac Cloughy. But no, I thought he had a solid showing at wing back and midfield. He's kind of a player that kind of just can play anywhere. He's super. We had a lot of players who were dead on their knees, like Ross Ravenhill and Jason Sampson had massive showings, and they were just dead on their feet with 10-15 minutes to go, but they were still battling hard. Killian Sampson scored 4 points for midfield. He's another player who could just play anywhere. He's a very, very versatile player, and I thought he was terrific again. But yeah, no, listen, I was happy enough with how we competed. And look, it would have been nice to have won the game or taken something from it. And I know we didn't. I don't think we scored for the final 20 minutes of the game or something like that. But look, we were through anyways, and it should be. The league final in a way is a small bit of an inconvenience. You'd rather, especially when it's 1B, you'd probably rather in a way just, you know, get to the championship and say, right, we're promoted, and you don't want anyone injured potentially as well. But look, there's a chance for silverware there, so we'll give it a good shot. But I suppose, look, for most people from Offaly, April the 19th against Dublin will be the more important game than the Waterford League final.
Yeah, I would agree. Making your mark in Leinster is certainly something that Offaly would be craving to do. Carlow have been the standout of the hurling league, says Brian. Galway and Clare have been very disappointing. Cork, Tip and Limerick to come out of Munster. Kilkenny, Wexford and Dublin to come out of Leinster. And he says, this was absolutely ridiculous red card for James Mahon. Very poor decision. And need to apply this then about the Billy Nolan hit versus, of course, the James Mahon, and one got a red card and one didn't. Me personally, my least favourite ref, if Dublin were in a big game, would be James Owens. I think James Owens has a bit of a main character complex. I think none made more so apparent than when he literally sprinted across the Waterford player taking the penalty. That was the worst thing I've ever seen. If you haven't seen that, guys, Google it. He literally, as Stephen Bennett is striking the penalty, he is still within the eye line of the Tipperary goalkeeper. He sprints across the penalty box. Like, it was like, I think he's our equivalent of like Mike Dean. You know, like, there's someone that thinks the camera's on him the whole time, and he'll always make a big dramatic decision at the end. Like, he was the one who gave the free to Carlow when the Kilkenny lad threw it into the stand, which again, I think was probably the right decision. But again, the camera's on him and he's giving it the whole it's a free to Carlow. Like,
Mike,
I feel like
it's so right. it's right. And like Mike Dean with his like celebration of Tottenham when they scored against, I think it was West Ham in 2015. That just comes to my head straight away with James Owens. Yeah, no, he's just center of attention type referee. But yeah, no, look, the refereeing is tough, but like I said, you've good refs and you've bad refs, and unfortunately, yesterday in Walsh Park we saw some very, very poor refs. And yeah, look,
it's a two-part thing, man. And there's nobody that has been more pissed off about the way refs have been treated in the last couple of years than me. Like, one of the TikToks that's pinned to the top of the Unclear page is me going mental when somebody shoved a referee in a club game. I think it was a couple of years ago. I went nuts over that. What?
Was it Aaron Levy from Tullamore?
It could have been.
Yes. Is
his name Aaron?
It was it was I believe it was after
hands on the ref. Like, I fume when I sing that, and I stand by what everything I said.
Yeah, they Tullamore just lost Leinster. I think it was preliminary round. It could have been that or the quarter final in the Leinster Club Championship. I think they had a penalty in the last minute, but then the referee didn't give the penalty, and then just all of a sudden they were panning on the referee. Next minute, all you saw was him on the ground.
Yeah, it was disgusting.
It was against the Meath champions. I can't remember who it was, but yeah,
I think it was.
It was Summer, yes, but it was a scandalous thing what he did, and yeah, no, like you can't be going doing that. You can have a word with a ref, you can talk about them, but putting your hands on them is an absolute no. You can't do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no.
I think it's a two-way thing. I think it's like the refs need to be more held accountable when they make terrible decisions. I don't think there seems to be much of it. Like, that you have to be asked, why did you make that decision? Why did you send him off and you didn't send Billy Nolan off, etc. And needs to be more clearer on what the rules were. That's why I thought when the refs were mic'd up, it was really, really good, because when people don't know why a certain decision has been made, they draw their own conclusions, and we need to be more kept in the loop about it. And that is the end of Division 1B. Laois 13 points, Dublin 221, and Carlow 315, Westmeath 318. Westmeath reigning on the parade of Carlow towards the end of the league campaign. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to run through the rest of the Alliance Hurling League results, and that will bring our episode to an end. Division 2 was Tyrone 113, Kerry 119, Meath 124. Meath 114, Kildare 124. Donegal 9 points, Derry 223, and then in Division 3, Cavan 215, Armagh 221, Armagh 10 points, London 215, Wicklow 215, Mayo 415, and then in Division 4, Longford 315, Monaghan 213, Leitrim 7 points, Warwickshire 414, Lancashire 110, Fermanagh 221. Then moving on to the LGFA and Camogie, I'll go into these games more in depth tomorrow. Waterford 122, Armagh 112 in Division 1, Kerry 13 points, Meath 18, Tyrone 3-4, Dublin 111. Then in Division 2, Donegal 10 points, Tipperary 7, Westmeath 114, Roscommon 110, Monaghan 4 points, Galway 723, Cork 112, Clare 7 points. Then Division 3, Down 312, Offaly 17, Laois 11 points, Cavan 216, Limerick 9 points, Louth 27, Carlow 16, Wexford 217. I'll go through all of those games tomorrow on the show, just we have completely ran out of time. I do have to draw this episode to a close. Last comment in here from Brian O'Riordan. He says, I wish the new rules were placed when Dublin were winning 6 in a row. Could easily have won more than the 6 in a row. Who knows? That will be an alternate history episode maybe one day on this channel. Guys, that is another episode over. Thank you so much to Gavin O'Reilly, to NIRB, to Brian O'Riordan. Brian O'Riordan and Gavin O'Reilly especially, plenty of comments in from these two lads. That's really helped make the episode what it was today. Liam, thank you for jumping on for another episode. Guys, that brings it to an end this time. As I said, I'll be making a video on the LGFA and Camogie ones too, so keep an eye out for that. And yeah, we'll be back here next weekend with another weekend recap and obviously a preview for the league finals as well, so stay tuned. Guys, that's another one in the books. Until the next one, enjoy your week. Agus Torah.